Hello everyone, and welcome to a short video on some lovely little things I call packets of happiness. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's say that you're working along in your math book and you come across this problem. 4x plus radical 3 over 4x plus radical 7. And the directions simply say simplify this problem. The question that probably you would like to know is, are you allowed to cross off those two 4x's so that you say that the reduced answer is radical 3 over radical 7? The answer is that no, you are not allowed to do that. So it might be confusing to you when you're allowed to cross stuff off in fractions and when you're not. And that is the whole purpose of this video, to help clarify things in your head. So let me give you an example of a legal maneuver. Let's say you have a very similar problem. You have 4x, but now it's times radical 3 over 4x times radical 7. Now you are perfectly able to cross those two things off so that you get radical 3 over radical 7. This is a yes. This was a no, but this one is a yes. Now, what's the difference between these two problems? Well, the main difference is that here we have all the terms being multiplied together, which means we're able to cross them off. Up here, our terms are being added together, which is bad news. So, every once in a while, there's some little sad algebra student who comes up to their teacher and says, "But teacher, how do I know if I can cross off the 4x or not? How do I know for sure?" And the teacher might respond with the answer, "Well, if you can see plus signs or minus signs, then you can't cross anything off." But that is kind of a lousy answer. And the reason it's a lousy answer on the teacher's part is because there's so many exceptions to the rule. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say that we have this problem. We have 4x plus radical 3 times 5x minus 20 over 4x plus radical 3 times radical 7. You will see that we have plus and minus signs. So the bad teacher who said, if you see that, then you can't do it, this would be an example of where that teacher has gone wrong, because you can cross these off. You could cross off this and you can cross off this so that your answer becomes 5x minus 20 over radical 7. That is totally appropriate. So how do you know when you can cross off and when you can't cross off? You can cancel terms. That's what we call it when we cross off the top and the bottom. You can cancel terms if you have packets of happiness. Packets of happiness. Great rule, you're thinking. But perhaps you need a little more guidance as to what exactly a packet of happiness is. And I don't blame you for needing that clarification, so I'm going to give it to you right now. So a packet of happiness is whenever you have math terms, often in parentheses, although we'll see it doesn't have to be in parentheses, often in parentheses, that are all multiplied together. Okay, so math terms, often in parentheses, that are all multiplied together. Let's do an example. So here we have an equation where we have 5x plus 2 times the square root of 7 minus x times y squared minus 7, and we put that over the square root of 7 minus x times 15. Okay? Now notice that we have all these different terms. They're all in parentheses, and they're all multiplied together. I could rewrite this denominator here and leave the parentheses off this 15, and you would still know that the 15 is being multiplied by this term, the square root of 7 minus x. But let's just go with this right now. So since everything is being multiplied together, we are allowed to cross things off. So I have this square root of 7 minus x, and I can cross it off with the 1 in the numerator. Now I'm done. I don't have any other terms in the top or the bottom that match. So my final answer to this problem is 5x plus 2 times y squared minus 7 over 15. That I am allowed to do. But what if the problem were slightly different? What if the problem were this? 5x plus 2 times radical 7 minus x times y squared minus 7 plus 4 over 15 times radical 7 minus x. So here I give you an example of a term that is not in parentheses, but we're still cool with that because it's still being multiplied together, right? You would distribute this 15 over both terms in parentheses through multiplication. Okay, so the question is can we cross anything off here? And the answer is no. Why? Well, because we have this plus 4 here. Here we have a term which is not being multiplied by all of the other terms. And that little tiny plus 4 is enough to mess the whole thing up, and we cannot cancel things out from the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to give you a couple of problems, and you look at them and you say whether or not you think you can cancel the terms. Let's try this. Okay, so the first problem I'm going to give you is this one. We have the square root of 3 plus 9x over the square root of 3. What can that simplify down into? The answer is nothing. It's going to stay the square root of 3 plus 9x over the square root of 3. The reason it's going to stay that way is you cannot cancel these out because these terms are not being multiplied together. They're being added together. And when you're adding together these separate terms, you mess up the whole possibility of canceling things out. Let's try another one. Let's say that we had x squared minus 7y times 8x minus 2 over 5 times 8x minus 2 times 19 plus the square root of 3y. Okay, what can that simplify down into? Well, you will notice that we have packets of happiness, right? Each one of these little packets is being multiplied together. And it's called a packet of happiness because it makes us happy, because we can cross things off, and so our equation gets much smaller with very little effort on our part. So now we're left on the top with x squared minus 7y over 5 times 19 plus the square root of 3y. Now we are done because we don't have anything that matches on the top and the bottom. If these two terms matched, then we would still be able to cross them off because these are still packets of happiness that are being multiplied together. Okay, let's do one more. What if we had this? What if we had 19 plus 2m times 5 minus 9m squared plus 4 plus 3m times 6 minus the square root of 2m all over 5 minus 9m squared times 6 minus the square root of 2m. Okay, how can I reduce this? The answer is I can't. Because do you see right here we have this plus sign right here? So these are 2 packets of happiness, and these are 2 packets of happiness. But those packets of happiness are joined by addition. And we're only able to cross off our packets of happiness if they're only joined by multiplication. So we cannot cross anything off here. We're just completely done. Okay, so I hope that helps you identify when you were able to cancel things out and when you are not. You look to see if you have packets of happiness. Packets of happiness are individual math terms that are all multiplied together. I hope that makes sense.